Terumah Perek Bet Mishnah Daled. Fourth Mishnah in the second chapter of Terumot. Says the Mishnah, Ein tormin mimin al she'eno mino. This might seem obvious, but you can't take Terumah from grain on corn, or corn on grain, or grain on grapes. It has to be from the same species. V'im taram. And if you did it, Ein Terumah to Terumah. And then your Terumah is not considered Terumah, it's not considered actual Terumah. And the Kahati explains that we learn all of this from, let's see if I can find, here we are. Okay, the Kahati explains, we learn all this from the Pasuk. Well, there's actually a whole huge machlokas. They learn it from a number of different Psukim. So one of them is the following. Nechshav lachem, remember this is a Pasuk that talks about Trumat Ma'aser. And remember this Pasuk was expanded to talk about all different kinds of Truma. So we read the following. V'nechashav lachem, it should be considered for you, Trumatchem, your Truma, Kedagan min hagoren, ukemeleya min hayekev. Dagan, grain from the goren, and meleya, and like in wine or grapes from the yekev, from the vineyard. I.e., it's supposed to be from each particular min, from its specific species, from its specific species or type of produce. Let's just highlight that. Okay. Others say unitatem mimenu, and they say don't read it mimenu, read it mimino. So there's all kinds of different drashot to explain why we said it has to be from the min, from the proper species, that it has to be min b'mino, from a different min. So what's considered min b'mino, says the Mishnah? Kol min chitim echad. All kinds of chitim, of wheat, are one. And the Bartunera says, avagav di'ika shchamtit ulevana. Black grain and white grain, doesn't matter. White wheat, black wheat, it's all the same. Similarly, kol min te'inim ugrogrot v'dveila echad. Any types of figs, grogrot. Let's look at the Bartunera for a second. Any types of te'inim. Okay, he says, I avagav di'ika shcharot ulevanot, black and white ones. So what are these languages? Te'inim, we said. Be'odam lachim, when they're fresh, kriyim te'inim. Ukesheyavshu, when they're dried, they're called grogrot. That's what they were called, grogrot. We call them dried figs. But what would we call dried grapes? We have a word for them. It's called raisins. But raisins are kind of grapes. They're just dried. Ukeshenidrasin bi'igul, we've talked about this many, many times. When they are pressed into a round, kriyim igul dveila. They're called a dveila. So in this case, call me into enim ugrogrot udveila. Echad. So if I have figs and I want to take truma from my figs for a dveila, I'm permitted. No problem. V'tarem mizeh al zeh. I can take truma from one to the other. Next case, new halacha. Kol makom sheyesh kohen torem min hayafeh. V'chol makom she'en kohen torem min hamitkayem. So this was obviously a common problem that we have to deal with a lot less, but it's a common problem, especially in the times of the Mishnah, and that is how to preserve food. And so we saw one example they used was this idea of dveila, if I've dried. So let's say I have fresh figs and I have dried figs. Which is better? The answer is fresh figs are much better. They're nicer, they're more mechubat. Dried figs will last longer. So says the Tanna Kama, anytime that the Kohen is present, if I take off Truma and I'm going to give it to the Kohen, Toreh min hayafeh, give him the better one. But she'ein Kohen, if the Kohen is not present, so I'm going to take off the Truma, and then I'm going to save it, and I'm going to give it to him when I find a Kohen. Then Toreh min mitkayem. I should give him from mina grogot ala teinim. I should take from the grogot and not from the teinim. Why? The grogot mitkayme tfei. Okay, but the grogrot lasts longer, and that would make sense. Since I can't give it to the Kohen now, I want to take off truma and then watch it rot. Okay? Rabbi Yehuda says, Le'olam hu toreh mina yafeh. I should always take off that which is nicer, that which is more appropriate. Let's look at the Bartunera for a second. Dichtiv, it says, Beharimchem et chelbo. When you, harimchem, the harim, to lift up, to raise up chelbo, it's chelev. Chelev is the word for a fine fat, but it means the best. Le'olam ba'inan chelbo. So Rabbi Yehuda says, based on this pasuk, where is it? Bamidbar Yudchet, Beharimchem et chelbo. Let's find the pasuk. Figured out why I couldn't find it. It's because in my file I only quoted until kafchet, and this pasuk is pasuk lamed. Va'amartem aleim. You should say to them, Beharimchem et chelbo mimenu. When ye set apart the best thereof from it, should be considered as an increase of the threshing floors. Meaning, i.e., okay, et chelbo, the word chelbo here means, when you take off the chelbo, the best thereof. The chela means fine fat, it means the best. So in that case, from our Mishnah, let's go back to our Mishnah, okay, that's exactly the point. Rabbi Yehuda says, Teremin hayafeh says, Barim chemet chelbo. Le'olam ba'inen chelbo. When you take off Terumah has to be the best. Ve'i pasid, yipasid. What are you going to do? So the Kohen's not here, he loses. But we pass in ve'en halacha ki Rabbi Yehuda. We don't pass on like Rabbi Yehuda. Rather, if the Kohen is not around, you do the sensible thing and you designate mina mitkayem. We will stop here. If you have any comments or questions, as always, arsporter@gmail.com is the email address, and we'll dedicate this learning to the memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Have a great day.